Welcome to Hispanic Biz, Success Stories. I'm Homero Galicia. We interview Hispanic business owners who built good business or are building businesses. We like to hear from them their stories. We believe every business has a story of origins, of challenges, of victories. We hope you find this interview interesting, enlightening, and enjoyable. We're fortunate today to have with us an engineer, Mr. Jorge Ojeda, who owns Hawk Construction. Mr. Ojeda, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here. Thank you.
I'm fortunate to have known you for a few years, and you're building a beautiful company, Hawk Construction. What kind of construction is that?
We specialize on site civil, what in our industry we call site civil concrete items, which is the the concrete that you see built outside of buildings, like at parking lots, sidewalks around them, and a lot of highway work, freeway stuff, bridges, and concrete paving and things like that. So
You're a civil engineer.
Civil engineer, sir.
Why did you name your company Hawk?
Hawk, it's really an acronym. It stands for honesty, accountability, work ethic, and knowledge. And those are just things that I guess back when I started this company, I thought about it a little bit, and that's kind of like, I thought there were good values to found it on.
How long have you been in business?
Hawk Construction has been in business since, it actually was established on December 18th, 2008, but really we started business on January of 2009, so it's what is it? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 6 years.
Fantastic. So before you start Hawk, let me find out about your background. But before I do, let me ask about today. How big is your company today?
This is not, well, we went into a growth spurt this year. Right now we are close to 50 employees, and we're doing, this year we're probably going to be hitting about 4 million in revenues.
And you manage all of that?
No, no. I wish I could say that way we wouldn't have to pay other people, but just kidding. No, I don't. I have a lot of help, definitely a lot of help. We've found some good people along the way so far, and they help a lot from bidding the project to managing it to actually getting the work done on the field. So no, there's a lot of people that help us.
Big company, 50 people. Well, good.
Yes,
we'll get into that. Well, let me ask about your background. Where were you born, Mr. Ojeda?
I was born in what is now, I think, a ghost town. It's called Amherst, Texas. It's really close to Lubbock, in that vicinity, in the Panhandle. I happen to be born there because my mother and my father eloped from Mexico. I'm pretty sure at the time they were undocumented aliens, and so we were there. There was my dad grew up farming. Where I'm from, this town called Porvenir, across from Fort Hancock, Texas, and he went over there. They went and established themselves there for a while. When I was born, doing farm work, and then when I was 2 years old, I think it was like 2 or 5 years old, we came back to Mexico.
So you did your elementary in Porvenir?
Mm-hmm. Well, I started in Porvenir, and then I went to a parochial school in up the road in Praxedis, San Ignacio. And I went there through 6th grade, which is elementary, and then I continued on at that same town for secundaria, which is the equivalent, what is it, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I started high school at Fort Hancock.
Your primary language was Spanish?
Oh yeah, of course, yes, sir.
So then you go to high school in Fort Hancock in English.
Mm-hmm.
How was that? Did you handle that pretty good?
I had very little basics from at the school and secundaria. We had English courses or an English class 1 year at a time, and they showed us some real basic stuff. And that's about all I had, and no, it wasn't easy. Luckily, when I came over, I have an uncle and an aunt. They took me over. They became my legal guardians, and they had 5 children. But the oldest of their children it's a boy, or was a boy, about my age, so we got along really well. And just in playing around and communicating, he helped me a lot. He helped me a lot.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have 4 sisters and 1 stepsister.
Okay, well, big family. So how did you like high school in Fort Hancock?
I enjoyed it. It was actually really good. They couldn't get me, or they couldn't keep me away from school for a while because I guess when I went to school, coming from Mexico, I couldn't believe that they had carpet in the classrooms and air conditioner and heater in the winter and TV, and it was all nice. They even fed you. They gave you food, so it was heaven for me. And plus, my family being across the border during the week, I didn't really have a whole lot of incentive on going to. Well, I mean, they were nice to me and everything. I just enjoyed learning, and I just thought it was great to be at school. And back then it was 1988 when I started high school there, so that's when computers started coming along and things like that, like the Apple IIe and all that. And there was a computer lab, and there was our lab teacher. She was real nice. She even allowed me to stay there after hours and just do homework or play in the computers and stuff like that. And we were in this organization called Business Professionals of America, BPA, and we competed in that. And so there was also me, and a lot of times there were 1 or 2 or 3 other friends that we were putting stuff together for competition and stuff. So it was enjoyable. I also played football and was in FFA, Future Farmers of America, and things like that.
So you had a good full high school activity.
It was good. Yes.
And how'd you do in high school?
Good. When I started, I didn't know any English really. We had 1 ESL class every year, and that helped me a lot. And I don't know, it just worked out that way. I enjoyed school, and I worked hard, I guess, and it didn't feel like work, but I guess I lied. I was soaking in a lot of information, and by the time I graduated, I was #1 in the class, so I was valedictorian, and that's what that was.
So that opened up college for you?
Yes, sir. Actually, I had gotten financial aid and everything else set up for work study program and everything at St. Edward's University, because one of my friends that graduated 1 or 2 years before actually went to school there, so he was excited that I was graduating, and he mentored me through the application process, as well as other people that knew more about colleges than I did, because they really didn't know. I didn't know UTEP from A&M, from anything, because that really wasn't in my culture, or in my background. So he mentored me through it, and he thought it was great where he was at, so he kind of guided me that direction. The only thing is that right at St. Edward's is a private university, so my counselor applied for this grant that the Texas Department of Transportation has, called the conditional grant. It was actually the first year that they put the program out. He applied for the grant and on my behalf, and we got it, or I got it. And what that grant was is that at that point it required the recipient to be in civil engineering, a civil engineering major, and to keep a 2.5, I think it was, GPA through college, or 2.6, something like that. And the commitment was that I had to work for the TxDOT for 2 years after graduation. So, and it was a maximum of 4 years or 5 years. So, so those were the conditions, and the university which you attended had to be a public university. So that right there changed my plans of going to St. Edward's, and I had applied also to UTEP and Texas A&M. Texas A&M rejected my application because I was deficient on one science class or something like that. But being at Fort Hancock, you can take too many classes because there wasn't a whole lot of teachers. So I ended up going to UTEP. I started at UTEP I think I went there 3 semesters, one full year and 1 summer, something like that. And then I applied for for a transfer to UT Austin, and I was accepted at UT. And I kept my major as civil engineering because of the grant. So I'm glad. At this point, I'm glad the conditional grant required the civil engineering or the declaration of a major and sticking to it, because I feel like I was probably a little bit over ambitious, and I felt like I could do anything. And because I had so many options, it probably would have been hard for me to stick to one field. This thing kept me in track, and it helped a lot. It helped a lot, and of course the help that I got from TechSat helped a lot. In the summers, I would come back to El Paso, and then they would give me a job here at the district office here in El Paso. And I met a whole lot of great people. During the summers, I lived here in El Paso. My family was still over there in Porvenir, so I was still a good hour away. And so to me, the people that I worked with here in El Paso, after a while, I was younger and everything else, and they became. I looked at them as more than friends. They really were part of my family circle, and so I really enjoyed the TechSat people a lot, and the organization as a whole. So that was that.
How many years did you do that?
I did that from my freshman year, so that was about 4 or 5 years.
Good.
4 or 5 summers, yes, sir.
And UT Austin you enjoyed?
Yes, sir. Maybe like everybody else, maybe a little bit too much sometimes, but no, it was fun and learned a lot. It was great. I had a whole bunch of opportunities that I don't think I would have been had the opportunity to have been exposed if I would have stayed here in the area. Not that UTEP is any lesser or anything as far as education-wise, but just the ability or the opportunity to interact with people from a whole lot of countries. The fact that you're away from home and you have to fend for yourself, it's just great. It was a great experience. Definitely one of the best ones.
But in college you got into other things too. What kinds of things you get into in college?
Yes, sir. I always had. Maybe my dad instilled it in me before I knew it, or not knowing, or it's just what I always saw. When my parents moved back to Mexico, when I was growing up, my dad came back to farm, so we started farming, and then there was a big problem there was a plague, or there was the crop got infested one year, and he had a setback, and then he started a grocery store. And so I never saw my dad really holding a higher job. He was always self-employed. So I guess that was in my DNA sort of. And one day I was walking through campus, and this guy talks to me, and he says he just started some small conversation with any phrase, and he invited me to this presentation that was going to take place at 9 because some business opportunity. So when he said business opportunity, I just got hooked. So I went to the presentation that night. Yes, sir. And they went through the whole deal, and it turned out to be Amway. A lot of people I'm sure or it doesn't seem to be as known today, but back in the day it was really well known. And I happen to be, Amway has a lot of different organizations, the people that it's like anything else, and it's truly a business. It's a lot of people look at it as a scheme or something else, but if you treat it as a business, it will be a business. So the leadership, whoever starts one of those structures, his style, his leadership, like in any other organization, reflects through the whole people. I was fortunate enough to be in one of what I think is one of the best leaderships when it comes to principles and things that they teach, besides how to sell or anything else. So I really enjoyed it a lot, and I took onto that real strong. They had a huge effect on what I do and who I am, and mainly because of the principles that they taught. It was self-reliance. What you know, basically we have what we work for, and so we take care. We basically carve our own destiny. So that's the thing, and there were some religious undertones to that, and of course I think they were good. Things like that. So they had a huge effect on me, and I think that reflects on how I do business now, I intend to, yes, sir.
So that really impacted you in a positive way.
I would like to think that it's positive, yes, sir.
Yeah. So you stayed in that for a while.
Yes, of course, I think, well, I was a student and was young, and I got other distractions and stuff like that. And I think after a while, you start deciding whether that's for you or not. And even though I enjoyed the people very much, the system, everything else, I still listen to recordings of they have these functions, and they have speakers and motivational speakers, really that's what they are, and things like that, and I still listen to that because it still brings me back and everything else. But after a while, I figured that sales, like per one-to-one sales and things like that, wasn't really my deal. I'm not cut for that.
So tell me about your father. He was a farmer. What was he like? What is your father still lives?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thankfully, he still lives, and we actually spent the weekend together in Midland this last weekend. But yeah, my dad, he's. I think we come from a family of entrepreneurs. His father was a farmer also, but he also back in the day over there in the town, he would. I think he would buy cotton from other farmers, smaller harvesters, and then he would take them over to a cotton gin and everything else. So I think we always done that as a family. One thing that still gets me about my dad, or that still surprises me about my dad, is the way he looks at the future. He looks at current events and then he projects them out. And that's something that I like to do still, or that I do now. I look at current events or things, and then you look at history and you look at current events, and you kind of draw a line to what do you think is going to happen next. And that's pretty neat. I mean, that's always that I've always noticed about him, and something that I've always tried to kind of keep because I think it helps. It's pretty cool.
What kind of values did you learn from your dad?
All of them. Between my dad and my mom, pretty much. Now my dad, hard work. I remember we used to be farming, and we would be out there, and you know, when you become a teenager at age 12, 13, 14, and then all of a sudden for some reason everybody gets lazy. When you get to that age, you don't want to do anything. You just want to lay around or something. And so he would, after school or in the summers, we would go and work. And I remember times when I rebelled because I didn't want to be there, and then I would find any excuse to, I'm hurt, or I'm tired, or my nose is bleeding. I always suffer from nosebleeds, so and he wouldn't care. He would just tell me, keep on going, don't worry about it or whatever. I don't care. And then he would push me to do that, or he would sometimes, I don't know if he did it on purpose or because he had to do other things, but he would take me to a field, and sometimes it would be me, or sometimes it would be me and somebody else doing some work, and I wouldn't see him for the rest of the day. And of course my mom would pack me lunch and everything. So I think it's hard work, and another thing I think is basically stand by yourself. That it seems to me that sometimes you end up when you want to do something, you start looking around to see who's going to go with you, and then when you find out that nobody else is willing to go with you, you kind of say, well, I'm not going to do it anymore. I think what I was taught indirectly, he didn't sit me down and tell me, but basically what I think I was taught is don't worry if nobody is with you, just do whatever you think you want to do. And so that's how it's been.
And your mom, what was your mom like? What is your mom like?
My mom, I think I have a lot of the work ethic and things like that from my dad. I took that, and as far as my personality, I think I have a lot of my mom. my actual day-to-day, my mannerisms and things like that. I think I have a lot from my mom. She, well, I mean, yeah, you know, she's great. She taught me. My dad, I guess on the side of my dad, I got, okay, well, this is how you work hard. This is what you want to do, and things like that. And my mom, I think, is the quality control side. She's more like, okay, well, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it right, kind of things like that, and things like that. And then she's always been very conscious about how other people feel when you deal with them, taking into account their feelings. What, you know, if you act a certain way towards them, how is that gonna make them feel, or you know, what are they gonna think, and things like that. So it helps a lot, you know. All the soft values, for sure.
And your brothers and sisters, what do they all do now?
My sisters, I don't have any brothers.
Okay.
I'm the oldest of the 5. My sisters, they're all married. 3 are married. My step sister is married, and my youngest sister is widowed right now. So my sisters there, let me see. One is the one that lives in, the oldest one lives in Fabens. She works at something that has to do with seniors. My next oldest sister, she lives in Fort Hancock, and she works in the Clint ISD migrant program and things like that, administration. And then my next younger sister, she lives in Midland, and she's a housewife. She has 2 kids and expecting one for December, another one. And then my youngest sister is a widowed sister, and she lives with my parents at Fort Hancock.
You're in Fort Hancock now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Most of the time, they commute to Porvenir every day and go to church over there, and they're still really involved over there.
And how many children do you have now?
I have 3 children. The oldest one is a girl, and she's 11. The next younger one is another girl, and she's 8. And the youngest one is a boy, and he's 6.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And my wife, of course, she. Go ahead.
And your wife, what does your wife do?
She got a chemical engineering degree from Texas Tech, and she works at the refinery. She's been working there for over 10 years now.
Where is she from?
She's from Socorro. She grew up in Socorro. She went to Socorro High School.
Okay. So you finish at UT Austin with an engineering degree,
Mm-hmm.
but you're committed to TxDOT for 2 years. So you go work for TxDOT?
Yes, sir. I didn't want to pay all that money back, but no. And at that point, I was in love with TxDOT. I grew up in TxDOT. That was everything to me. So yeah, I had no problems finishing up school and starting full time with TxDOT. It's a 2-year commitment. I started 1 year in Austin. Then I transferred to El Paso, and I was here for close to 2 years. And then this is actually, my wife used to work at TxDOT, and that's where we met, here in El Paso. Then she got a job in Odessa with her chemical degree, and so she went over there, and then we got engaged. And then I followed her over there during our engagement, and we got married. We lived there for 2 years. I was still employed with TxDOT as, when I was here in El Paso, I was a designer. And when I was in Midland, that's where I worked in the Midland area office. I was doing design and project inspection and things like that, management a little bit. And then I came back to El Paso for design after 2 years in Odessa. And then I was doing roadway design here. And then there was an opening at the East area office. The office there in Pelicano and Joe Battle, where for a project engineer position, which is what TxDOT calls their project managers, and it was for the construction, on the construction side of the department.
So how many years did you work for TxDOT?
Altogether, 10 actual years, 10 close to 11 years. My record or my service there, my official service is 11 years because of the summers that I worked, but full time probably close to 10 years, or actually a little over 10 years.
So you went through all the phases of road construction, you went through design and planning and project management. So you learned what, 90% of what?
Well, maybe less than that. I'm sure there's a lot more. But yes, sir, as far as the actual putting the stuff on the ground, yes, sir, a lot of that.
So you fell in love with the field?
Yes, sir. I was a project manager, and I met people, construction. Once I was exposed to the construction field, the construction workers, the superintendents, the construction companies. Yeah, I like that field. Of course, I always had in the back of my head that I wanted to do something on my own. So I can't say that I chose it. It's one of those things, my career chose me. I didn't choose it. Civil engineering chose me.
and so the idea of going into business was something that's been in your mind for a while.
Oh yeah, yes sir. Ever since probably college, and I didn't even know it, but yes sir.
So did you see this preparation, this time with TechSouth, it's preparation for your business? Is that the way you saw it?
I think towards the end, I think I did. Once there was a change that went through right before I left, or before I left TechSouth. TechSouth went through a lot of changes, a lot of organizational changes. I mean, trying to modernize itself and keep up with the times. But it was a big change for me. A lot of the people that I dealt with for years and years either retired or left and things like that. And so it started becoming a strange place. I could see a lot of opportunity there still. But then when I hit the 10-year tenure at TechSouth, you become what they call vested. At that point, you basically, I guess your retirement stays there, and then you get some kind of annuity at the end of retirement and some health benefits at the end. So the next milestone after that would be retirement. And that would have been maybe 30 years later, 25 years later, and so I think I could feel that it came out time for me to make a decision to do what's next.
Wow, that's neat. So you really did a lot of preparation working for TechSouth.
Yes, sir. Not really knowing it, but yes, sir. Yeah.
Good.
Thankfully.
Well, I appreciate hearing your background, your story. It's important as we move now to talk about your business. Concrete construction. Is that pretty much what it is, or?
Yes, sir. We pretty much we specialize in concrete construction. Civil for. Really, what we specialize on government projects, public works. So it has to do more like university and state, city, county projects like that. Yes, sir.
I saw one of your vans at UTEP there. They got
yes,
this
sir.
Big project, and you're doing some work out there.
Yes, sir. We're doing some concrete work over there for Sea of Jordan. Yes, sir.
I have a class a class I do there in the new building, the engineering and computer science, and every time I see the steps, I remember because you built those, you did the steps and the foundation there.
Yes, sir. We did the site concrete also for the chemistry and computer science building. We did some work at the School of Nursing and the parking garage down there on Schuster also for different contractors.
So your business, you started in 2009?
2009, really. Yes, sir. We started operations in 2009. It was established late 2008, but yes, sir, 2009.
And that was your first venture after you left 10 years with TechSouth?
No. What happened is, I guess I was saying earlier that civil engineering chose me. I didn't choose it. And same thing happened with construction, really. What happened is I turned in my resignation at TechSouth because I knew I wanted to do something on my own, and I had hit the 10-year mark. And so I said, before I get any older, I want to go out and try this and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then the worst thing that can happen is I go get my job back or somewhere else. But it wasn't so bad. So I ended up turning in my resignation at TechSouth, and I gave a month's notice because I wanted to close everything. And that was it. I had vacation accumulated, vacation time, so I had a month to really get something else going or figure out what I wanted to do. So that's how it worked. It's funny. I'm gonna say the same thing. I didn't choose construction. Construction chose me, because we went on a road trip. Almost when I was getting closer to actually stop working, and I got a call from a friend that from the construction site telling me that there was a contractor in town that was looking for concrete workers, or a concrete company, because the concrete contractor that he had on a job had disappeared on him. That was in 2007, when Fort Bliss was just kicking off and there was a shortage of people, so he was desperate. And so I told him, yeah, I'll talk to Joe when we come back on Monday. So on Monday I went, and he said, well, I got so much money to finish this job, can you do it? And I said yes, and we started that job. When I turned in my resignation at Texas, I think I really wasn't exactly going into construction. I was thinking I was going to do something having to do more with engineering at that point. So we got that little job. It was landscaping work at the School of Medicine, the Paul Foster School of Medicine now. And before we finished that little job, another one came up. And then CF Jordan offered us some work at Fort Bliss on the BCT1 concrete paving, hand pours, and that's where it took off. And so since then, I haven't been able to do anything else but construction.
Did you have partners to start with?
Yes, sir. The name of that company, when I came back and then we started, okay, well, it turned out we have work, so I figured we needed to put a company together. So I looked on the phone book and I found a lawyer that says they're business formation or something, and so I called him and he put together an LLC for my friend and me to be together in business, and we called. They had a legal name, but the trade name became Mountain Star Construction. We were in business for a year and a half through 2008. The economy seemed to be, I could see that the economy was slumping already. Thankfully, we had a good run on the previous year and a half, and we were growing. We had at that point I think it was like 12 employees. Now it was 24 employees. 24 employees, but Fort Bliss was closing up, and I guess I had a conversation with my friend, telling him, it seems like it's gonna be hard times coming around, and right now we have zero debt, we have some money in the bank. What do you think we split it down the middle like we always have? I didn't expect his reaction. I guess I did that out of naiveness, but he took it. He didn't take it too kindly, and he felt. I guess he felt hurt and everything else, and I probably didn't. I must have not approached it the right way. But the message was really what I was trying to do is okay. It was gonna get tough, and it was a good time to split. Also, he had when you get a little bit of organization going, then you start figuring out how things get done and things like that. He had a way of doing things, and I had a different way, and I could see that it probably wasn't gonna mesh on the long term. So we ended up splitting the company. Even at the end, we ended up splitting the company, and he took his half and I took my half. Yes, sir.
So then you formed, that's when you formed your
Hawk Construction.
Hawk.
Yes, sir. Started Hawk Construction. Well, I guess for some reason I was pretty much right, because when was it? Actually, it was in 2007 and that's why I brought that up, because of the subprime crisis and everything else. That's when that's why I expected it to get hard, and it happened. It got tough. Fort Bliss kind of rode through that wave, and and really hard times didn't hit until probably like 2010. That's when it really got hard.
So when you formed your own company, you had some work already coming?
Yes and no. We were closing. We wound down our work with Mountain Star Construction. We finished it off. And I started looking for work again. I had established relationships with some of the old contractors, and then we went out and found new ones. Work lined up per se, no. We won some projects up, and it was hard to get new ones. At the beginning, it was tough. It was a hard time getting it started over again.
So you do work for prime contractors.
Yes, sir. Mostly we do mostly subcontracting work, except when there's projects that fit us in size and in scope, that has mostly concrete and it's not too big a price tag for us to manage, maybe on the 2 million range. We may look at it as a general contractor, but mostly we're subcontractors to large contractors here in town.
So you start your business and it's a slow start.
It was slow and it was tough. I started over at the house, which we never really, with the other company, we didn't get around to getting an office. I was running out of my house. And with the hall construction, I started over at the house, and it was a lot of hours. It was like I was doing all the takeoffs, all the bidding, and all the administration and everything else. It was many hours. The hardest part for me, I think, it was when I would have the light on and I would make a noise or something, and my kids were little, and they would walk. I would wake them up without meaning to, and then they would end up walking to the room or to the office where I was working, maybe at 2, 3 in the morning, and they would end up laying down next to me. It would break my heart just because I had to make them go through that. I guess it's not that bad.
So you had to deal with dividing family and business.
Yeah. We had to manage. My wife has always been extremely supportive. When it has to do with work, she supports me, and that's helped tremendously. That's a huge help.
So as you're building your business now, now you have to hire people on your own, and
right.
What kind of challenges were there in those first jobs and putting your staff together?
When we split the company, it was I told people find out, our employees found out we were splitting, we were separating, going different ways, and we had about 24. And the reason I remember it was about 24 employees is because when basically we made it official over the holidays, over the Thanksgiving holidays, and by December, pretty much everybody, without me knowing, that everybody had made a decision on who was gonna go with whom. And so when I basically on January of the next year of 2009, basically I walked out the door of my house and said, okay, well, let's see who showed up. And pretty much 12 people showed up, so it ended up splitting in half.
That's interesting.
Even with the people. And so we had our general superintendent, or my superintendent right now in the field, he was there, and we still have of the people that was originally that day in 2009. I think we still, out of those 12, I think we still have like four
okay.
of them.
Okay, wow.
4 or 5
loyal workers. And so as you now you're growing your business, where did you find financing to finance these projects?
We've always been, extremely blessed. What happened is I started on the very first jobs. We went to the bank, and thankfully my wife and I had a good enough credit history to where the bank, Wells Fargo at that point, really good banker, Joseph. He opened us an account. My partner and I went, and we basically got a line of credit, an equipment line of credit, and another one, a credit card for $5,000, and the line of credit was like for $13,000 or $15,000. And that's what got us started. Then we needed my materials and things like that, and then I had another business owner here in town. They do rebar, and he said, well, if you know rebar, just go to the place and tell them to put it on our account. So he helped me with that. And then I had a credit card that I maxed out a couple of times. But really what made the biggest difference is when we started doing the bigger jobs at Fort Bliss, CF Jordan. the contracts that we had with them, they basically helped me out by paying earlier and sometimes and things like that, and so that allowed me to kind of get it started and get it snowballing a little bit.
So what is it like to run a business? I mean, before TechStart, you were a project supervisor, so you knew how to supervise projects.
Right.
You had that training, but now you've got to build a business. What's the difference?
It's a huge difference. For one thing, I was used to going to the job site, and I thought I was familiar with the work. I knew what needed to be done. This thing goes first, and then this, and then there's that. But when you start actually being involved in the actual construction of the work, is very different because you have to worry about details that you never thought even existed before. What is the distance from here to here? How fast do you do it? How fast do you build it? What do you need? How many materials and things like that? So it's very different on that side, on the hard side. Also on the soft side of the business, it's very different because you have to deal with people differently. I guess I deal with the people in trying to give them. I always give them the benefit of the doubt until they really prove me wrong, and so I think that's what we have. We actually have a pretty low turnover in our company. I think that's something that I've been instilling with our guys, is just to treat people with dignity, and to provide them with the dignity of employment, and treat them right, and I think people appreciate that, and they stay around. They see benefit in staying in a company like that versus working for another company that maybe doesn't consider them so much.
So you're putting your staff together, and so how did you learn how to run a business?
I'm still learning. I have a lot to learn, that's for sure. I know how to get a business to 3 million revenue. Let's put it that way. There's businesses that do billions, so 3 million compared to billions, I'm about.
But you're a reader.
I'm taking a baby steps. Yes, sir. All the time, I guess. I've always remembered reading, and because I always had it in my head that I wanted to do something on my own, I've always read stuff, management books, self-help books, anything that I could get my hands on, and sometimes technical books and things like that. And I remember when I was reading some of that stuff, I remember thinking to myself, this doesn't make sense to me right now, but if I stuff it in there, it'd probably come handy someday. And a lot of it has come in handy.
I know you read the Harvard Business Review.
I have a subscription to the Harvard Business Review, yes, sir.
And you understand it, which is great. But
I tried to understand it, yes, sir.
So you prepared right, and you keep studying. And as you grow your business, what's the difference between somebody that does concrete construction like you do, and you're an engineer? What value does that bring to the job?
I think I guess I'll preface that with saying that concrete work can only get so good. Quality can only get so good, and there's a lot of people out there that don't have a college degree that are in this line of business, and they do excellent work. But the difference becomes in education, and I think that education makes a huge difference. Not because it's a civil engineering degree. It helps on civil engineering degree helps on you can think materials properties and what's gonna work and what's not gonna work. That helps a lot. It brings value to the customer, to the owner, and to, like, for example, if we're doing it for a general contractor, we can offer alternatives, or we can offer opinions, or we can sometimes even advise on how to approach a problem. I do that sometimes. But I think just the education, I think the education helps also in helping me see things from other perspectives that other people don't come to or come at from. It just I guess just how you think about other people and to me it's helped a lot. It's hard to put in words.
I know that for example, you look at plans different. When you look at plans, how do you study plans for a job?
Yeah, well, I look at them first. I guess I approach. We kind of have a method for that. We look at them just trying to get the stuff that you can pick up fast. And as far as how is this gonna be built, what is it that we're gonna build, and then we start looking at details later. We have an approach to it, the scientific approach. Now, going a little bit to the education, running a business versus not education, I think it helps. It has helped me because also on the structure. You appreciate structure and organization more than somebody that doesn't really understand it. Like for example, I see the need for managers and things like that, and I'm aware of the fact that you have to pay those people, and it's not necessarily an expense; it's an investment on people. When you don't have a lot of education, you may look at that as expenses and unnecessary, and you may try to go around those, and that keeps you from growing. So things like that. So I guess really it comes down to having approaches and methods to doing things.
So today, how do you run your business? You've got how many employees now?
We're close to right under 50 employees at this point. We have right under 50. We have our field supervisor, superintendent. He takes care of all the logistics, the materials, and the equipment. Then we recently, earlier in the year, hired a project manager, and he does the technical side of things, the project management, production rates, plans details, and goes to meetings and schedules and things like that. And that frees me up to do a little bit more ahead thinking, future thinking, so that we can plan for the business.
You're also involved in some community things too.
Yes, sir. I'm fortunate enough to have been selected for the Leadership El Paso Class 36. That's been great. It's been a great experience for me. It's exposed me to a lot of other areas in El Paso that otherwise I would have no idea existed. And of course, the people that are in the class, they're also great people. I enjoy them very much. Yes, sir. Also, I guess I'm in the Board of Adjustments at the City of Horizon. So things like that, yes, sir.
You live in Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
So you're serving your community, and your wife is involved too, I believe, right?
Well, yeah, she's involved in the PTA at school, and so she does a lot of that, and a lot of she's really involved with the kids and the sports.
So here you are, running a business, and your wife works, and so how do you balance family and business?
That's probably the toughest question to answer. The best that we can. The kids are getting older, they're getting more involved in extracurricular activities, sports and band and things like that. And that's challenging, it's very challenging. My wife, thankfully, like I said before, she's very supportive, and she does everything that she can to keep me from having to leave work, to keep me from having to make that choice if I can avoid it. Of course, I enjoy being with my kids very much, but I think you pay your price for what you want to accomplish. When I feel like I don't try as hard, when I don't do as much in my business as maybe I should, or maybe I know that I could have, it makes me think of the people that work for us and their futures. I would hate for me to find out that somebody runs short at home or something because I didn't try hard enough on doing my side, my responsibility in the business. And so that keeps me, and to me that's the balance. Okay, it's my family versus their families, and so that's really to me the hard question to answer.
So you really take into consideration your employees' families as part of your organization.
Yes, sir. Well, yeah. I mean, we are in this. At the end of the day, what drives me is not profit. Profit is an essential thing of the business. It has to be there because you have to be able to pay the bills tomorrow. You cannot run a service organization and be able to grow. So profit is a necessary evil, but I don't think is not the goal itself. It's just a means to keep going and hopefully do more for more people. So yes, sir. I think the idea is to hopefully provide or help somebody else have a better future, and hopefully their kids can do better than their parents, and hopefully.
So what are some of the best decisions you've made in growing your business?
Best decisions. That's a good question, and I hope I don't take too long to answer that one, but or to think about what to say to that. Best decisions. I can't. It's hard for me to say.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Let me ask you this way: what would you say to somebody who's starting a business? What would you recommend?
I would recommend that they educate themselves to really know what they're going into. And to really, I think, to check their heart and see if what's guiding them. Because if the idea is to make money, you can make money at any one thing that you do. I mean, money is the easiest thing to make. The hard part about that is are you doing what you like to do? And that's I think that's what helped me. I've been fortunate enough to be guided to what I like to do without me even knowing, and I think that's a huge blessing. So the thing is, money can be made. You can. I'm not saying I have bunches of it, but I have enough, and money is never the driving force. What the driving force should be is really what do you like to do, but you have to really do some hard searching and really some honest thinking. That would be my biggest advice for somebody starting a business.
So have you had some real huge challenges that have you questioned yourself sometimes?
Sure. I question myself, am I doing what I really am supposed to be doing? Yes, I've questioned myself when things don't go right, or when sometimes, sometimes you feel tired. It's a physical tiredness, it's an interesting way of getting tired. You get tired, maybe it's burnt out is probably the word for it. And it's you're at the end of the day, you're still human. I think your body catches up to you sometimes. Yeah. And you start questioning whether that's what you want to do for the rest of your life and things like that. But I read somewhere along the way that when you're gonna make a life-changing decision, you need to make it when you're on top, not when you're on the bottom. So when I'm discouraged and I start guessing about that, I say, well, I'll wait until it gets good, then I'll ask myself that question. So and when it gets good, I don't even have time to ask myself that
So have there
question.
been people to help you in a positive way, help you grow your business?
Oh yeah, yes sir. Of course, I think it's impossible to do it by yourself. I think there's no such thing as a self-made person now, or self-made business or whatever. There's definitely my parents, family as a whole. They've always been encouraging. I miss a lot of their functions. I miss a lot of their parties because of work and everything else, and they seem to understand. I appreciate that very much, because I know that I could be there, and I have to make that choice. Family, in high school, there was this high school superintendent, Mr. Franklin. He, when I started at UTEP, he lived here in El Paso, and he let me borrow his car for a semester. And he helped me in a lot of different ways, advising me, and I guess he would probably figure that I was homesick or something, and he would take me out to lunch and things like that. Very, very good man. He helped me out a lot, even through high school and everything else. There's a lot of mentorship. Other large businesses or other businesses that I do work for, they're very open to give me advice when I request it, and so I appreciate that very much. Yes, sir. It's been great. A lot of support, and of course, God has helped me tremendously. Yes, sir.
So tomorrow, what's up for tomorrow? Your business future.
Oh, the future of the business. Hopefully, we'll grow as big as we can, and still be able to do the things right, do them right for the right reasons. If we start getting too big to be able to pay attention to the details or the people or our customers, then it's probably too much. Or we need to stop, take a break, and reevaluate and hopefully do it better. Because I think it can be done. It's just you grow and you learn along the way.
So it's been a good journey for you.
It's been an excellent journey for me, sir.
Well, your story is
So
certainly
far.
fascinating, and you've
Thank
taken
you.
us on a journey, and I certainly appreciate that. I've learned a lot from your story, and I trust our viewers have enjoyed your story, and we hope they find it entertaining, enlightening, but also gain some insights. You've got a lot of good insight.
I hope it helps somebody see the potential and the possibility. Or I would like for people to see me as a possibility and as an example, as a possibility that they can do what I do or something else, but great.
Well, Mr. Ojeda, I greatly appreciate your time with us, and we wish Hawk Construction and Mr. Jorge Ojeda the best in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.